Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here coming at you live from my studio/RV dining room directly outside the city of Little Port-au-Prince, Ohio, formerly known as Springfield, Ohio. It's the location where they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Anyhow, folks, I will be your pilot and navigator for this shenanigan-infused journey into the mind of this particular garbage can dude. And joining me here tonight for a Operation GCD occult and or esoteric film review is Headless Giant and Nick of the Occult Rejects. Welcome, gents.
How you doing? Great to have you back, JJ.
Thanks. Yeah. I had a short hiatus. I'm back and functioning for the time being, at least, right? And we'll definitely have to dive into a future Fridays discussion there, Headless. You'll have to join me and Nick here again for another Fridays. I know Nick and I have both been missing different Friday shows over recent weeks. We actually just had our first one back together this past Friday, so definitely have to get that knocked out here in the month of March. You'll have to join us for another conversation. But I look forward to tonight's conversations there, fellas. I believe you both have watched tonight's film review of the 1991 cinematic masterpiece, Pizza Man.
Much like its stomach.
Yeah, I will have to say it was kind of a shitty movie to an extent.
Kind of a shitty movie, to the point where the first time I watched it, I was like, "What?" Like that was my review of what? Like what did I just what did I just watch?
It was really something.
Well, I think if you go in the mind frame that I want to watch a cheesy, shitty movie, it's actually good. It will be a good movie. Yeah, and like I can see myself enjoying it if I was in a different mind frame of why I was watching it. They'd be like, "Yo, this shit is fucking dumb, but funny."
No, I totally agree with it. Your meta analysis there, Nick. What was your thoughts there, Headless? Oh, before we get into this, why don't you guys give a proper introduction here of Nick from the Occult Rejects? You got anything you're working on over there to plug before we get started in this wonderful film review of the greatest film of 1991?
I got.
Go ahead, Headless. You go, Headless.
I got a show coming up tomorrow where we're going over emails of people's occult, magical, paranormal dreams and experiences that they've had. And that's going to be tomorrow night on Headless Giant YouTube channel. So check that out. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Definitely looking forward to that.
And is that are you joining him for that, Nick? I know you guys have been doing that over recent weeks.
Yeah. If I can, I like to. I think it's fun. I really enjoy it, actually.
Yeah, I've watched the last 2 weeks. It's my understanding you got an interesting email 2 weeks ago about some ghost busting in New York City.
Yeah, it was strange. Some guy named JJ was trolling us, I think.
Yeah, he said he got pegged by ghosts. I've never heard of that.
That sounds tragic. That sounds real tragic. Yeah, apparently it's an unfortunate mistake. I apparently mistook my life for the life of Dan Aykroyd's character in the film Ghostbusters. Easy error to make, I understand, but I did like the mound discussion last week. I tuned in for that as well.
Hell yeah. Manson's a pretty cool guy. If you guys want to follow him on at Manson Rollers on X, he's a great follow.
So yeah, I've been enjoying that series y'all are doing over there. What else is going on in the Occult Rejects, Nick?
Let me see. What do I got? I think tomorrow I got a show dropping, actually. No, Thursday. I have the oh yeah, we got that show that me and you did yesterday, actually, is going to be dropping Friday. Yeah, that Mormonism, Howard Hughes and CIA stuff should be pretty interesting. It's going to be a multi-part series. We got that dropping tomorrow. And I don't want to mention the name because, I mean, odds are someone will probably put out a show before I can. But we are doing a live Saturday night on Occult. I don't even want to put it on the title on YouTube because I'm sure I'll see like 3 different people jump on it before I, do it myself.
Oh,
but I do want to let people know to look out for that. It'll be me, JJ, Ethan, and Lisa covering a topic.
I'm looking forward to this top secret brony project on Saturday night.
Well, no, I was texting you earlier, joking around.
I know.
That shit does happen, though. I hate to say it.
I think it's hilarious because you're spot on for sure. That would exactly.
Especially when the same person does it like 3 times in a row.
Right. No, and we got Fridays going on with this Friday night with BT Wallace from the Shadow and Truth and Shadow podcast, and I believe also the Unrefined podcast. I believe is the other one he's a co-host of. Pretty interesting fella. Pretty interesting dude. Got a lot of insight on a lot of parapolitics and conspiracy theory topics. And I think he's got a lot from a Christian angle too, because he's heavy on Christian stuff. I kind of appreciate that perspective. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time here. But got a couple other good lineups here on Fridays coming up. So that'll be a couple exciting shows here coming forward. Did I get locked out? Am I froze up?
No, you're good now.
My back.
Sort of.
My back.
Oh,
My back.
You're back now. Back it up.
Yeah, so VT Wallace on Friday, and we got a couple other good folks lined up here in the subsequent weeks for Fridays. So definitely looking forward to that. And as far as Operation GCD Live, back next Wednesday night with Lord knows what topic. I'm not sure yet. I got a couple bouncing around my mind. Most recently, when I was describing the Nick the other day, and strangely enough, it was regarding the Monica Lewinsky affair. And and strangely enough, she came out today making a bunch of wild comments. I'm like, oh, they're going to roll her back out again, aren't they?
Maybe you should cover that.
I think I might.
That is interesting.
How she's a limited hangout, and she was basically been employed by the Clintons since then. I mean, the numerous Clinton folks within the Clintons orbit, folks who are involved with the Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Foundation. These are the folks that have been employing her. So,
and don't forget the Mossad.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's always the elephant in the room, is it not?
Yeah, I think it's the whole Monica Lewinsky story is just hilarious. Once you get a little bit of the backstory, it's like, wow, they really tried to. Well, I guess it served its purpose, right?
It did, because it gets super wild. Because I mean, I'll just give you a quick meta analysis of the situation, a little strategic outlook, if you will. A lot of the folks that were involved in the Trump Russiagate framing stuff were involved in the Monica Lewinsky affair, right? To include Lonnie Davis, he was the chief counsel of the White House at that time, and he was Trump's attorney. That one dude they kept rolling out there, Michael Cohen.
Michael Cohen went to jail. Yeah.
Yep. His attorney was Lonnie Davis. Why in the fuck would he hire Lonnie Davis? You know what I mean? This is Bill Clinton's, goon for many years, right? Including the number one goon in the Lewinsky affair. But the Lewinsky affair was interesting because it brought Matt Drudge as this conservative person on the scene. And his claim to fame during the Lewinsky affair was scooping this infamous writer, Michael Isikoff. He scooped Isikoff on the story, as the legend goes. Well, Isikoff is the one who did all the Seth Rich coverage for Russiagate stuff. He even did a whole podcast series on the subject. So he's deeply involved in all that nonsense. That's what I'm saying. It's, you have these seemingly disparate parapolitical incidents happening decades apart, but it's the same fucking people.
The world is being run by publicists. I'm telling you, they're just writing the scripts up and throwing these people out there.
It seems that way at times, does it not? And tonight in our film review discussion, some of this seems far off from the 1991 cinematic masterpiece Pizza Man, starring Bill Maher as a pizza delivery guy in what is kind of a stoner, or not a stoner noir, kind of a crime noir, but as Headless pointed out, is pizza noir. And I think that's the best way to describe this god awful film. I'm obviously being facetious when I say it's a cinematic masterpiece or a good film at all.
I do have to say it was genre bending. Like it was just taking all these things and just squeezing them, trying to get all the juice out they could.
But this is obviously, as you fellas saw, is very politically motivated, kind of hit piece kind of film. And those politics and the people involved in that film seemingly are still relevant today, and just happen to revolve around the discussion of Jeffrey Epstein. So almost begs the question of, is there a esoteric meaning to the pizza ban and the ongoing, pizza trope? Because they keep asking, they keep using pizza in various strange contexts throughout the film. And obviously there's the overt context where Bill Maher plays a pizza delivery man. However, the use of the word pizza is just all throughout the film, even, describing all sorts of different things. And they keep wanting to say about releasing the pizza at one point in time. And again, there's varying kind of contexts like that just don't make a lot of sense, on their face.
Not at all. And they went for the obvious joke about the anchovies on the pizza several times.
Well, it was very hacky, very hacky.
Right. Well, there's something about the fish, like the fish, he's following the fish or something. And it's kind of got maybe the idea that maybe it's a Pisces type film.
Oh, all right.
1523 is mentioned a lot too. I did wonder about that. Like they
23.
specified them out so many times.
Yeah, so that's what I was hoping you all would pick up on, is some of these numbers and stuff, because that's nothing that's nothing I ever pick up on.
Well, what I got for 1523 was that several significant events took place around the world. In Europe, Christian II was forced to abdicate the king of Denmark and Norway on January 20th, 1523. Gustav Vasa was elected king of Sweden on June 6th, marking the end of Kalmar Union and establishment of Sweden's independence from Denmark. Additionally, on July the 1st, Hendrik Vos, a Flemish priest and church reformer, was burned at the stake in 1523.
That's never good. Like that burnt pizza you were talking about yesterday. So 1523. I was gonna jump into this plot, but 1523 is like the main. What does that said? Maybe 100 times throughout the film. They say 1523, and it started immediately in the introduction of the film when Bill Maher is trying to deliver a pizza, and the bill for that pizza is $15.23, and he goes on demanding that same sum of money from everyone and their mother he meets throughout the film. But basically, the plot line is Elmo Bunn, that's Bill Maher's character, which I don't know if there's any deeper meaning to the name, but we'll get back to that in a second. I did look into that a little bit. Elmo Bunn is a LA pizza delivery man with a reputation for never having delivered a cold pizza or being stiffed on a bill. When a call comes into his shop for an extra large with sausage and anchovies to go to a dangerous part of East Hollywood, Elmo knows he's in trouble. And that bill for that pizza in East Hollywood was $15.23. And they described the previous pizza man who tried to deliver a pizza to that location was never seen again. So it's already an ominous kind of situation surrounding this $15.23 bill.
I want to point something out real quick. The way you're delivering that that message right there is exactly how it was delivered in the movie. There was no no subplot, no nothing, no like
no
dialogue. Yeah. They just said that exact same thing. Like that could have just been read from the movie.
Right. That's a good point. There's to be fair, there's zero character development. There's almost no well-defined plot. You really don't understand what's going on in this film till the very last scene when you meet none other than Donald Trump. The character, it's not Donald Trump, the man, but it's somebody playing the character of Donald Trump. And we'll get into that point. Before we get to that, though, we got to describe what else leads Bill Maher to that situation, including meeting a number of political folks, right? So, like, to me, this film was some sort of like, there were some political intentions or some sort of political hit piece going on, which, again, I think is very intriguing relative to why Donald Trump's included in the film. But the first guy Bill Maher meets is the guy at the first stop there. It happens to be the LA mayor at that time, right? The guy who ordered the sausage and anchovies pizza was none other than Mayor Tom Bradley. Obviously not the mayor, but somebody playing the mayor, right?
Well, there was a fight scene before that where he's fighting the mob. Somehow he walks into this kind of warehouse looking thing.
Right.
That later on in the movie, it's referenced that each one of these crates is full of gold. I'm not sure how they got there, but anyways, it goes to this warehouse, and then all these mobsters are sitting around, and one guy is obviously trying to play off of the whole mobster cliche about having the jowls stick out or whatever. And so he's like, I'm just going to eat my pizza and not give you any money. So the first guy to stiff him was this mobster guy who turns out to be an actor playing a mobster or something.
Yeah, he was like a bootleg Brando, right? Like a bootleg Godfather looking character.
Right. It was just a really bad Brando impression.
Yeah. But he worked for, you're right. And all of a sudden after he fights that guy, then Tom Bradley pops in with an AK-47.
Right.
There goes your anti-gun. Like the anti-gun stuff throughout this film it's pretty in your face.
Right. No, that's one of the first things that Elmo does is talk about how he's a liberal Democrat and he voted for the mayor. And even though you don't believe in guns, there's always a gun store open in LA that he can go visit and pick up ammo.
Here's a comment on 1520. Yeah, no, you're right. It was at 3 a.m. too. So they're acting like it was a 24/7 gun shop, right?
Right.
1523, 11 is the essence of all that is sinful, harmful, and imperfect. Oh, that's the you add them all together?
I don't know. Maybe.
6
Yeah,
plus 2
that's what it looks like.
11. Yeah. Yeah, no, just catching up on some of these comments here in the chat. So, I think yeah, so I mean, obviously have
they got him.
They got him.
My back.
Yeah.
So the first scene, like you have this immediate situation where the mob is working with the LA mayor, right? And they're describing how they've swindled lots of money from the city and some sort of train project, right? Which I think was funny because not LA specific, but in recent years, California, Gavin Newsom and gang have been squandering upwards of $100 billion on some railway system. So some things never change out there in California.
Right. It was a Ponzi scheme using the savings and loan sort of trope from 1987 with the savings and loan crisis.
With the bonds, right? The bond markets.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why we later see a character, Michael Milliken, who did time about 10 years for he was the king of junk bonds. Right.
So this movie is chock full of references from 1991. And one thing about it is that it's just like if you weren't watching Murphy Brown back then, you still wouldn't get it. But like that was basically the whole TV show of Murphy Brown, was just making constant references to what was going on in the world at the time and then trying to make jokes out of it. It was really awkward and kind of bad. But if you go back and watch that show, you can see that they were trying to ape that style of just making these constant references to current events.
And I also on that note, I like to point out this was written, and this is a full-blown Hollywood production. Whether or not it was released to the theater, that's probably someone in Hollywood made the right decision and said, well, the right decision should have been burn it, but in a piece with I'm assuming numerous intentions. Again, I'm assuming the writer and/or Bill Maher's beef with each one of these characters that Bill Maher's running into throughout the film. I'm assuming that this is their hit piece against these characters, right? Like, why are you including the mayor in this story? Why do you include Ronald Reagan and Geraldine Ferraro in the next scene, right? So these things I think are all very telling to me as far as what these, some sort of hit piece by the writer and/or Bill Maher. Now the writer was this fellow J.F. Lawton, but he wrote this film under the name J.D. Athens. Now, and the first thing that this was sent to me, I don't remember exactly when, long time ago, a while back, but somebody had sent to me because here on the Wikipedia page, the source of all information on the interwebs, the character here is listed as Vance. I think this is why this was initially sent to me at one point in time. However, in the film, if you all notice, it's Vince's Pizza, right? But so what's interesting though is it seems that the last time this Wikipedia page was updated was 2015, right? And it just seems like an odd, maybe even a joke from the universe. Who knows? But you got JD, right? You got Vance, and then you got Trump. And you're dealing with circumstances in this film, politically speaking, are still relevant today concerning the topic of Trump and other folks such as Jeffrey Epstein is another connecting principle here.
I think what could be happening is the magical principle that if it's stupid enough, it's going to play over and over again.
Okay. That's very possible. That's very possible. But the writer of that film wrote films such as Pretty Woman and Under Siege, with classic film with Steven Seagal, possibly Gary Busey's greatest film. I mean, it's up for negotiations, but it's possibly his best film ever.
Absolutely. No, Gary Busey in that one was semi-coherent, which that was
right?
his best today.
And then of course Tommy Lee Jones. And speaking of all this tomfoolery with shady spooks and these bond markets, right? One of the guys in that film was in that category. I can't think of his name right now. He's I'll look it up here while I'm thinking of it. But yeah, I don't know. It's odd to me again. See, you all watched the film, like you probably thought like a very untalented writer could have written that film, right? Somebody who had no talent in writing films such as Pretty Woman or Under Siege, films that have character backstories. They build characters. They have various narratives and plot lines that coincide one another, seemingly integrated throughout the film. Especially with a film like Under Siege. I've never seen Pretty Woman, so I really can't speak to that. I recall it winning awards and whatnot. And watching this film, you're like, what happened? Because obviously I think this was after Pretty Woman for the guy.
That's crazy. So to me, it seemed like it was a child that was trying to write jokes. You know what I mean? Like a kid will say, "This is funny because it's a funny word." And that's what is going to make people laugh, is funny words make people laugh. And so, they kept repeating 1523, hoping that it's an obscure enough number that it'll make somebody laugh. But
yeah,
never did.
You think that was a joke gone wrong?
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of them were just jokes gone wrong. Like,
there was a lot of jokes that did not hit in this film. A lot of them. You can
tell when they wanted you to laugh, but it's like, okay, like, how they introduced Ronald Reagan and Geraldine Ferraro was the woman that was being held hostage by these mobsters or whatever. She killed all the mobsters. Like, she picked up the AK-47, murdered all of them for no specific reason. They were out of commission, and it seemed like she wanted to get rid of the witnesses, right?
Right.
And I think that occurred to Bill Maher to act like he thought that she was trying to get rid of the witnesses, but then immediately just forgot and then carried on a dialogue that had nothing to do with the fact that maybe she's, at the root of all of this garbage. But after that scene where she brutally murders all these people, she says, they go back to her place and she says, "Don't go in that room." And then immediately he goes in the room because he's looking for the money, and there's Geraldine Ferraro and Ronald Reagan in bed together.
Yeah, and they were opposing folks who don't know who Geraldine Ferraro is. Pat yourself on the back. You should not know who that person is, but she was the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket against Reagan in '84. So them sleeping together is Bill Maher, I think, saying like, "You're all one same party." You know what I mean?
It could be that, or it could be a fun name to say. Geraldine Ferraro. Geraldine Ferraro.
I mean, it is kind of a fun name to say, is it not?
Right, but there's the comedy, right? Is that funny name? And Ronald Reagan. Well, that's funny because everybody makes fun of Ronald Reagan in the 80s and 90s. That he's the laugh line, But it didn't. And instead, what it did do is make people wonder about, are they really trying to send us messages here? Which I think it's so bad.
Think so. I think the whole movie's deep. Like, there's again, it's a political hit piece. It's probably got some other meanings. Again, just the mere fact that Donald Trump is the overlord in all of this criminal enterprise. Back in 1991 film that it makes me wonder, like, what is this beef between Bill Maher and Donald Trump, and or who Bill Maher is associated with. So again, the writer of that film wrote Under Siege with Steven Seagal and again, Gary Busey's greatest acting effort possibly. Robert Booth Nichols, he's connected to the Octopus conspiracy with Danny Castellaro. He's one of these spooky kind of financial spooky guys. He's out there doing the moving and the shaking, the financier actions behind some spook operations. So at the end of the day, like, I think that's what's going on with some of the characters that Maher's attacking in this film with the next guy, Michael Milliken. So after before we get past that, I like to point out this one thing I noticed throughout the film, and I don't know if either one of y'all noticed the same thing here, but after that first scene where the woman that was being held hostage picks up the AK-47 and murks everybody, Bill Maher proceeds to just beat her senseless. Right? Like,
I think when they go back to the place, he just gets aggravated and starts slapping the shit out of her.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah,
he's just smacking her around.
Smacking her.
And that seems to be an ongoing trope throughout the film is violence against women. So only the women are getting beat up like really bad, like her, and or murdered because she later dies. But it's the Geraldine Ferraro gets beat up real bad, or not Geraldine Ferraro. Dan Quayle's wife gets beat senseless. I mean, that scene was aggressive. Let's be honest. That scene was real. It got uncomfortable at times. Like, that's the level they took it to with that's what I'm saying. Either Bill Maher's trying to make a point there, or he really likes to beat women.
you know, I got to keep going back. It seems like a joke that just doesn't hit. It's like maybe beating up women was funnier back then. I don't know.
Was it funny back
Well,
then?
she does fight back. That is the one thing. It's not like she's just sitting there. She is beating his ass back too.
Well,
that's the
yeah.
whole thing. I mean, I think it was just. It was almost like trauma type.
Oh yeah,
type
trauma,
style stuff.
It was that
when
kind of
you see people who are political that have certain views. It's just funny to see them act certain ways. You know what I'm saying? Like if that was somebody else, I probably would be still thinking that it was just silly fucking childish humor. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what you said earlier, Nick, before we started the show is who or maybe it was Headless. Who thought it was going to be a good idea to make this guy an action star?
Yo, one thing I did say though, I was rather impressed. I do think it's him, and I'm not trying to give the guy credit, but there's a time where someone does a cartwheel, and I'm pretty sure he actually does it himself. So
he does his own stunts.
Yeah, he looks like he does his own stunts and his own dancing.
That I agree with. The dancing, that scene was awkward as well.
Yo, he grabs his dick too and pulls himself forward 3 times. I was like, yo, what the?
Yeah, dude. If they're going for humor there, I guess that maybe that was funny in 1991, but it didn't play well today, right? It didn't stand the test of time.
You really can't tell. That's the point. It does have this kind of Tim and Eric type low quality, lo-fi vibe.
I mean, back then, was Michael Jackson still grabbing his dick? Maybe that's why it was like, who the fuck knows?
Probably, right? Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. That was probably still a thing back in 91. I'm sure it was pretty prevalent still. Yeah, that was kind of the height of the Michael Jackson era. So it just seems to me that there's some sort of message being sent there. I mean, even maybe if it was even some humor there. I mean, you just don't see that kind of beating of women in films. You know what I mean? It's just not a very common sight.
Well, do you have any clips that you have queued up that we can show?
Yeah, I do.
The movie I Spit on Your Grave.
I do. I've seen that. It's very uncomfortable.
That's in the 70s. I'd say there was some beating of women in that movie.
Yeah.
Very, well, they remade that movie not that long ago.
It's a lot worse.
They did. They made it a lot tamer though. That 70s brutal.
Maybe I saw the remake.
I put that on and I was like, yo, this came out in the 70s. I was like, if they released this now, I think they'd be like, yo, that movie is fucked.
There's a lot of 70s movies like that.
Yeah, the exploitation film era.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pulling up a clip here. Then, so after Reagan and Ferraro, they try to kill Bill Maher, right? But he escapes, right? And then that's when he runs. He goes right back to the pizza shop. He's got to go deliver more pizzas, right?
Right.
And then that's when he runs into Michael Milliken. I got that clipped up right here. Hold on one second, please. And Michael Milliken, are you fellas familiar with some of that backstory?
Sounds like Milliken.
He was a Wall Street fella. He kind of invented this. He was an executive in a major Wall Street firm he ended up running into the ground in 1990 when the scandal fell out. He was basically running a Ponzi scheme kind of deal with these quote unquote junk bonds, right? So these high yield, high interest kind of bond type deals that he was selling and brokering the deals of. Did I freeze up?
No, you're good now.
Nope. So yeah, he's brokering these deals. He gets busted in 1990 for all this stuff. This legendary Wall Street firm has to go bankrupt, right? So what connections he had back to Donald Trump back then, I'm not exactly clear. I know in the film they claim that Donald Trump bailed Milliken out. I don't know how that's possible because, they also include in the film how Donald Trump is at war with the Federal Reserve because this is at a time when he was at the height of his beef with the Federal Reserve, who would shortly thereafter this film cut him off, financially speaking, and that's why he does all of his banking over in Germany ever since, because the American banks would not give him any more credit or anything else like that. They wouldn't do any business with him. But these kind of things, I did notice that those were embedded in the dialogue between Maher and Trump later. But one thing that's incorporated as well is this relationship with Trump and Milliken. And I'm not familiar with it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist because they certainly have a relationship after Milliken gets out of prison. So Milliken goes to prison in I think 1990, does 10 years. He gets out and he's playing tennis with old DJT down there at Mar-a-Lago. Got a newspaper article here somewhere.
The Milken Institute is a lot like WEF for a lot of different industries. And so he puts on this Milken Institute, I guess, conference like every couple of years. He's got a finance forum in 2025. So this guy runs the entire bond market into the ground. And now he comes back and he's been financed to have this WEF style conference every year. So he's definitely a big player, but at the same time, it's like, why would anybody trust this guy? I remember the junk bond thing. I mean, why are they going to his financial institutes? All he's going to do is teach you how to make Ponzi schemes.
Yeah. I'm confused by that as well. I don't know how the man's worth $6 billion today. You know what I mean? He defrauded all these people, but again, so it's these weird circumstances, I think, surrounding these kind of Ponzi schemes I have a lot of questions about. And it surrounds Jeffrey Epstein as well, because he ran his own Ponzi scheme that he didn't get held accountable for. Now, Michael Milliken, I guess, kind of got held accountable for his, but again, at the same time, like, how's he got all this money today? But you can see here, this is Trump and some tennis pro beat disgraced financier Michael Milliken and some other tennis pro at a Trump golf tournament or Trump tennis tournament at Mar-a-Lago. It was a pro-am tournament that Trump hosted every year, and I think this was the fourth year that he did it, and he finally won his own tournament. So 53-year-old Donald Trump, and at the time, he just got his gal pal back, model Melania Naus, whatever how she pronounced it, is now wife, obviously. But, so this is going back a bit. I believe this was 2000. So shortly after Milliken got out of prison.
Right.
Yeah, this is the Sun Sentinel. Yep, February 2000. So, there's obviously some deeper, longer standing connections between those two, Milliken and Trump. Whether or not the movie was correct in their dialogue of saying that Trump bailed him out, I'm not sure what he bailed him out of, because Milliken didn't get bailed out, and that movie was in 91. If there's any bailout, it seemed like it would have been, later, right, when the dude got out of prison, after the film was made. So that part's kind of confusing to me. But what is interesting is Milliken's associate there, the one that didn't go to prison for that scandal, right, was very closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep, this is the time for it. I mean, when you're talking about the height of Jeffrey Epstein's power, it's like 1991 through 1999. That was all his decade,
Oh, well, no, you're spot on with the 90s, but it went before that. So Epstein really made his name in, I believe it was 1985. And they got, maybe it was 89. Let me look it up. So Epstein was running at the time, was the largest Ponzi scheme in Wall Street history. He got busted for, right? Him and his associate, Steve Hoffenberg. Hoffenberg did nearly 20 years. He just got out a few years ago and died a couple years after he got out. So they were running a debt, kind of debt collection agencies. They buy up debt and they go collect it and stuff. And it was called Tower Financial. And Steve Hoffenberger went to prison for, like I said, a very long time. Jeffrey Epstein and Hoffenberger paid restitution. Jeffrey Epstein, no prison, no restitution, and they were partners in the venture. Yeah, Towers Financial Corporation. He did 18 years from. So it collapsed in 1993. Actually, okay, so shortly after this time. I was thinking it was just before the 90s. It was 93. So 95, he pled guilty. $475 million, 20 years prison. He did 18, plus $1 million fine and $463 million restitution. So he got all of the restitution and all the crime for that, right? Epstein didn't get anything. And in that same note, you have Milliken's buddy, Leon Black, there, right? This was his associate in that scandal there at Drexel Burnham Lambert, right? This again very well respected Wall Street firm that they ran into the ground in this scandal. Milliken goes to prison. Leon Black does not. Leon Black has been, as you can see here, woman ends lawsuit claiming Leon Black raped her in Epstein's Manhattan residence. Leon Black agreed to pay $62.5 million to sell Epstein related rapes. You know what I mean? This dude's all over. This dude's been paying out like a lot of money for Epstein stuff, right? He's even getting investigated by the SEC here. Investigation of the Epstein-Black relationship and any relationship between Epstein and Apollo Global Management. So when Milken went to prison, his buddy again walked Leon Black, and he started a different, fund or management thing. I don't know if it's a Ponzi scheme, but obviously he's not doing great things in life. It seems he's doing some pretty nefarious shit, going around raping young kids with Epstein there for a number of years, and again paying restitution, to the tens of millions of dollars here, it seems, in recent years. Why this dude isn't under more scrutiny or we're still walking, everyone's screaming about an Epstein list, that's probably a different story altogether. But what I'm saying is, in 1991, in a film about pizza, we have characters that are deeply related to the Epstein saga, such as Michael Milken, Donald Trump, right? Through these kind of connections.
Absolutely.
Arnon. I'm surprised that Arnon Milcon didn't make an appearance in this film. Maybe that's who funded it, right? He was a big producer at the time.
I hope everybody in the audience realizes that the Hollywood movie industry has been the oldest form of money laundering since basically forever. I mean, like, it went back
with this movie.
Yeah, it went back to the theater too. The mob has been using entertainment purposes as money laundering forever. So this movie does represent, a big pit of money that they just decided to throw all this money into and just light it on fire, because I doubt it came out of the theaters or got any sort of reference at all. But you could tell that it had a kind of a budget. So I think there's a lot of mob and underworld type connections around the production of this movie.
No, I agree with you for sure. And the clip I'm bringing up is actually him and Bob Woodward, because Woodward serves as this. He calls himself Deep Throat, right?
Right.
Speaking of the mob, right? You were just talking about mob and film productions and money laundering, right? Well, the mob financed the first pornographic film, Deep Throat, amongst other films in that era, right? In the early 70s. And that was premiered at a theater there in West Hollywood, the Pussycat Theater, which was a process-owned, unoperated, theater there, Process Church. So you have, some weird cult stuff and, ostensibly human trafficking. There's certainly drug trafficking surrounding those cults, and revolving around, the financial aspects and production of these films. It's a strange bedfellows, but I think that's only seems strange. I think it's very common in amongst Hollywood. So, these again, it makes me think, what was the purpose of even financing this film, right? Or even making this film. This movie's so obscure, it makes no logical sense to me that it even exists. I mean,
you got that clip pulled up?
Yeah, my froze?
No, I don't see it.
I think I'm froze up. There we go.
So this is bigger than you think.
Oh,
Who are you?
A little bit too far here. One second.
What now?
Can't talk here. Follow me. I'm too close. I can't.
I'm not following you. Who are you?
Just think of me as your personal deep throat.
So, I mean, and again, is Bob Woodward's the guy who met with Deep Throat for the whole Watergate thing. And also, strangely enough, Woodward has been one of the most ardent critics of Donald Trump, making all sorts of, I think he's even won prizes over his books or whatnot that he's written here in the Trump era. So another connection still from 1991 with these same characters right in the film to our modern era of politics, right? With Bob Woodward here. So you got Bob Woodward with the Trump tapes, and he's always all over the media and whatnot in recent years. Again, folks can have. I'm all about criticizing, especially politicians, with legitimate criticism. But this is one of these guys that seems to the Russiagate kind of narratives, right? The stuff that was clearly bought and paid for, kind of propaganda from the Clinton campaign, kind of deals. These guys seem to be touting those lines and perpetrating them, like the guy I was referencing before, Michael Isikoff, right? Being another guy in the media doing those same things.
Well, I think when it comes to Bob Woodward, what a lot of people don't understand is that he was naval intelligence.
There you go.
So all of his stories were basically planted. You've got kind of a secret war going on between the CIA and naval intelligence that's been going on since the CIA came into existence. And so Bob Woodward is sort of there to give the black eye to the CIA, and then they go back and forth at each other. But it's really stupid. I mean, the whole feud between naval intelligence and, I mean,
no, you're right. It's certainly going on for sure. And I like to highlight this comment from Brian McKinney. Bill Maher's company is called Boy Love Productions, and I'll be getting to that point here shortly. But yeah, Bob Woodward, same one from Woodward and Bernstein. What's that, Nick?
I said, is it Kid Love or Boy Love?
You're right. It's Kid Love Productions. You're right. Kid Love Productions. My mistake. Yep.
It might be.
No, it is. It's Kid Love. You're right. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I think Woodward serves a role, but what he's doing in this film, I have no idea. But he's playing this this character here for Bill Maher's mystery, right? And I'll play a little bit more of this clip because he kind of goes into this, the overarching conspiracy, I guess, right?
Deep throat. You're into love lice?
Watergate.
The porno.
Oh, that deep throat, the Watergate one. Okay.
I just want to pause it again. Isn't it weird that both the Deep Throat and the porno and the scandal came out at the same time? You know what I mean?
And I think that was why he did it, is because that was the talk of the town. And so he was making reference to that movie. And it was, I mean.
Was he? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was making a reference to that movie because I think that was what was getting the headlines. And so, but still at the same time, you do have this kind of connotation of maybe being like secret or underhanded with the whole deep idea. So like deep intelligence or whatever. But Deep Throat, he was definitely talking about the other type.
What? Talk louder, I can't hear you.
You're in over your head, Elmo. This is bigger than you think.
Who are you?
You don't recognize me? I'm famous. Come on. Come on. Didn't you see Wired? All the President's Men? Bob Woodward, it's me. What's wrong with that? What? It wasn't my idea to use me as a character in Wired. It didn't quite work, but it was a daring artistic decision.
So I feel like that's like whatever this Wired movie is, like this is a hit piece within Hollywood, right? Some sort of internal beef where they're talking shit about, the other film.
Right. Other obscure movies, right?
Right, yeah. No one's going to get that reference, right? Unless you have to like look it up.
Well, I think that's what they're making fun of. They're making fun of the fact that it was so obscure that nobody could possibly think that he's famous from that stupid role.
Right.
You're a great sellout.
What?
You sold out, man. You were my hero in the 70s. You brought down the President of the United States, changed the course of history. Then what do? You go for the quick buck like every.
So I just want to play that line with this Woodward piece because that obviously is implying what I'm. I think that substantiates what I'm saying is each one of these characters that Maher's encountering, right? He's telling them to their face that whatever beef he has with them, right?
Right.
This is the beef he has with Woodward. He used to be my hero because X, Y, and Z, but so all that stuff's nonsense. The whole all spooky stuff surrounding that and Woodward, but. The fact that Woodward's around today, it makes me wonder what is he involved in today? Is it O&I business still? Because Trump surrounds himself with O&I. Maybe he's kind of like the Trump anti-propaganda guy, right? The guy that the controlled opposition type of character for within the O&I circle. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that seemingly the CIA took out Nixon, and you have an O&I guy working with him. So I think at some point in time, folks jump teams, or whatnot, because. At the end of the day, the folks that comprised the CIA, especially back at that era, was Air Force intelligence and Navy intelligence guys a lot of times.
And Mormons.
Well, yeah, overwhelmingly Mormons.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. This whole movie is a bunch of surface level socialism. Like it's all these Democrat platforms that, you know, go back to the 60s and all the rage they felt back then, and it's all sort of translated into this movie as being sort of like the fall from grace from the Democratic Party.
No, there's definitely a lot of that here. Yeah, for sure. And I often wonder what the line is between, you know, somebody like Bill Maher of Kid Love Productions in a film called The Pizza Man, you know, and you know, again, who's calling the shots here, right? I mean, he seems like he may be a player in some sort of network in that kind of regard, right? Like, you know, the writer's one thing, and again, he's strangely enough, he's from Riverside County. I don't know what his connections are to Scientology, but it's odd that the year before this film in 1990, he writes Pretty Woman, which at the time Richard Gere was associated with Scientology, if not a Scientologist. He's at least done courses, right? Like that at least is confirmed. Now, actually, I think he was far more embedded within the Scientology network at the time of Pretty Woman, because if you recall, shortly thereafter, and I don't know, Headless, if this is something you may recall. I know you're a few years younger than myself and Nick, but Nick, you know, Nick may recall this. At least this is something that was rolling around my parts of the Midwest in Ohio there in the early 90s. Richard Gere used to jam gerbils up his butt. This is way before the interwebs, right? There was some network of information that rumor spread. So once I joined the military, I realized folks on the West Coast had heard that story and folks on the East Coast had heard that story. I'm like, wait a second. It's like 1993. Who the hell's transmitting these narratives all around the U.S.? Scientology could be the culprit, right?
It was too fucking bizarre not to talk about. Like,
everybody was talking about it. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's at the time, I specifically remember being a child, like, you know, a young teenager. I'm like, what gerbils here? What is going on in life? This dude's out of control. You know what I mean? But, you know, whether or not it happened or not, it's something Scientology would do to a former member leaving like that. Like, oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, I know they divulge their secrets. I'm not saying he had to have done that. They could just be like, oh, we'll just pretend like he told us that, and we'll just tell everybody that.
That's a hell of a network,
right? But I mean, right, Nick? Did you recall hearing that stuff like early 90s, like way before?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people like Chad even saying that they remember that. Yeah, I remember that back in the day.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like it was an impressive thing to you know, to be
totally honest with you, it seemed to go along with him becoming famous.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Right after Pretty Woman, yeah.
When everybody knew who he was, that's when all of a sudden he had gerbils in his ass. You didn't hear the story until then.
Right. Well, I mean, he's associated with some interesting projects in the 80s, which caused me to also believe he's, you know, has some Scientology or even, dare I say, process connections when he stars in films such as The Cotton Club, right? Which The Cotton Club was the culmination of the project between Cocaine Bob Evans and Roy Braden, the son of, you know, essentially the East Coast process and West Coast process guys, as asserted by Maury Terry in his Ultimate Evil book, which, you know, makes some great points in making that argument. But yeah, you know, the star of that film would ultimately be Richard Gere. So, you know, he had some weird projects in the 80s, but yeah, it was seemingly after Pretty Woman, he was, you know, suddenly gerbils were flying out of his ass.
Could you imagine being Richard Gere and then walking into a room full of people and then thinking to yourself, how many of these people are thinking about gerbils in my ass right now?
Dude.
Especially like if he's never done it and that story goes around. Right. Yeah.
Oh man. Gerbil story was even the movie Scream. I don't recall that, but that's interesting.
You would screw it up. What if like a woman comes up to you and like kind of makes it known that she's interested in you? It's like, damn, like is she into that type of shit? Yeah,
she's into gerbils, dude.
Yeah, right. You're like, fuck, do I gotta worry about gerbils being brought up in the bedroom at some point? Because she thinks it's real.
Yeah, so I don't know the writer of this film's background, but you know, again, he's from Riverside and that he did write Pretty Woman, so it makes me wonder, Scientology perhaps?
I think I'm going to send Richard Gere a hamster wheel.
There you go. Maybe that's why he moved out of the U.S. I think he left America. Maybe that's why he left America, because too many people knew. He got everywhere he went, dude. People were just sending him hamster wheels and fucking making gerbil jokes to him. You know, he's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I've had enough.
I buy that, dude. I buy that.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
I don't know. Just so that Woodward scene, like he's got a real, like whoever wrote, if it was Maher that wrote the words or impacted the words in that scene, or it was the writer himself, like somebody had a real beef, like personal beef with Bob Woodward. So I think we've seen a couple political beefs maybe with the mayor. You know what I mean? Like that beef with Woodward seemed a little bit more personal than political to me.
Michael Dukakis too. He was talking about, do you still think I'm unelectable?
Michael Dukakis, that's right.
We left out Michael Dukakis entirely.
That guy was annoying.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, he was easy to forget, and politically speaking, he's easy to forget that he was in this film.
It's more obscurity.
Yeah, I think it's funny how he was like the cheapest paid person. Like what did he say? He took wild turkey and a pack of smokes or some shit, right? I don't know, some stuff like that.
Right.
He was the lowest rent opposition to Ronald. Was that Ronald Reagan or George Bush?
No, I believe that was the same. Was that the same? No, that was Mondale and Ferraro, wasn't it? So yeah, it would have been George Bush and Dukakis.
Right. But I mean, like, he got unseated because he was inside of a what was it? He wore like a bunny costume, and everybody made fun of him because of it. I gotta look it up.
Dukakis? I don't remember that one.
Yeah, this was the headpiece.
He's somewhat still relevant today in respect to the fact that his son is all over Republican politics and has been. That Jason Chavez fella, the multi-level marketing executive from Utah, the Mormon fellow who was a congressman for a couple sessions, maybe 3, maybe 6 years. He's now, I think he's a political commentator on Fox now. But yeah, Chavez is his stepson. He's married to Chavez's mother.
Right. So he looked unmanly in this picture. It wasn't a bunny costume. That was the other guy. So
Dan Quayle.
No, that's Michael Dukakis sitting inside of a tank, and he looks totally awkward. And that's
he looks like Tim Walz.
Right. Exactly. He's a Tim Walz character.
Yeah, when Tim Walz tried to LARP as a military guy. Now, who was in the bunny costume then? Was it Reagan?
No, that was the guy who ran against Bush Jr. He had
Gore?
No, it wasn't Gore. It was the other guy in 2004.
Oh, Tim Kaine?
No, it wasn't Tim Kaine. No, that was
Clinton VP. Damn it, whoever. He was the Kerry.
John Kerry. So
the Skull and Bones election. What was I thinking?
He wore this like full body like what is it? Like chemical suit or whatever, doing one of his, presidential tours or whatever. And so it looked like a bunny costume, and everybody was commenting how he looked like he was wearing a bunny costume. It was stupid. They always come up with these stupid pictures that make a person look bad, and then the media runs with it based off of who they want to really win. So you can't really trust what they say. What they try to do is stir up controversy that gets stuck in your head.
Well, and that's funny you mentioned that, because they actually discussed that here relative to Dan Quayle here in a subsequent scene. But one comment just came to mind, and totally off topic, is relative to the 04 election between Bush and Kerry. Whatever happened to the "Don't Tase Me" kid? The "Don't Tase Me, bro." Remember Kerry was at the University of Florida. That student comes up to the mic and asks him about Skull and Bones, and they literally drag the dude out and like tasing him and shit. And he's yelling, "Don't!" That's where the phrase "Don't tase me, bro" comes from.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did they disappear that kid to some fucking island? Like, why does that kid not have a podcast today called "Don't Tase Me, Bro"?
I've heard him on a few. He was a guest on. But yeah, like he should totally have a thing. But again, it's like, who knows? Maybe he's O&I. You never know about this shit.
Right.
I heard a Jesuit the other day talking about the assassination of JFK, and it's like, what? Why are the Jesuits talking about this now? I thought they were supposed to be on the inside of it.
That's interesting. Yeah. And according to this comment here, we got the gerbil story was around after American Gigolo. That's interesting. Because I think a lot of these characters, I think there's a lot of actors that have a lot of these early Scientology connections that don't get credit for it. Gear would be on that list. I think Stallone would be another one. We were talking about that, before the show, some of the Coppola family. But yeah, Coppola did the Cotton Club. His sister being Talia Shire, Rocky's wife, but in the Rocky films. And it's always it's one of the most alarming situations when I learned that Sylvester Stallone not only directed but choreographed the film Staying Alive, the weird kind of very overtly homosexual disco film from, I believe, 1983 or 84, starring John Travolta.
Yep. And who else? Barry Gibb. What was that band called?
The Bee Gees.
Bee Gees just rocketed them right out into the pop world, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too far off subject, but yeah, that's an interesting epicenter of activity. But yeah, the weirdest thing to me is Sylvester Stallone doing those, doing that. And speaking of Scientology, or at least somebody I think is in Scientology, that the father from that '70s show, Red Foreman. I can't think of the actor's name. He also was a choreographer on the film Staying Alive.
Oh shit!
Can you imagine that scene? Right? What a weird scene.
Do you remember him from RoboCop?
Oh yeah, dude. First, he was an assassin. He's a pretty tough guy. But that's what I'm saying. It's a weird, weird juxtaposition. But yeah. So I guess I don't know. Nick had to step out for a second, but we
didn't Sylvester Stallone get his start in movies doing gay porn?
I mean, I don't know if it was guy on guy, but certainly, I mean, who else is buying the solo guy porn, right? In the '70s, it's obviously gay porn, right?
Right. Yeah. So it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to think that he's the choreographer if he's
right. Yeah, the Italian stallion. Yeah, again. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of interesting connections in Hollywood with a lot of these characters, but that's what leads me to believe that a lot of folks in Hollywood have a lot more visibility on things. Their perspective is not of the general public. So I don't know what Bill Maher knows in particular, but as we've commented here before, and a lot of folks have been posting here tonight, Bill Maher did after this film. It wasn't this film. Welcome back, Nick. How you doing, bud? You good? You disappeared there. I wasn't clear if you had an emergency or coming back or what. So
I had to piss really bad.
Well, that's an emergency. That's an emergency. The Bill Maher Productions. He after this film here, Pizza Man. He started this, so it was 1992. He started the Kid Love Productions. This company was founded by. It's now called Bill Maher. He's changed it. He changed it in December of 2007. But from 1992, so immediately following this film, until 2007, the company was founded by comedian Bill Maher. In 1992 as Kid Love Productions, but adopted its current name in December of 2007. So it's not only that he made this Pizza Man film, and then he, subsequent to this film, he starts this Kid Love Productions. And I wonder, because I know these in 1991, no one was thinking that pizza had anything to do with diddling stuff. You know what I mean? It wasn't a thought on anyone's mind. I think it's a thought on a lot of folks' mind today, which again is weird to me that there's so many elements of this 1991 film that are still relevant today around the topic of diddling stuff. Kids.
Why are we beating around the bush here? All right. In 1991, Bill Maher shoved gerbils up his ass. Okay.
His or Richard Gere's? Which one?
He was the one putting him up, Richard Gere's.
right. Oh, shit. So you're saying that Richard Gere wanted to call the film Pretty Gerbil, but they forced him to call it Pretty Woman.
Wow.
God damn.
Oh, shoot. I had to.
Squeak, squeak, squeak.
Yeah, so back, trying to get back on track here. To me, there's so many signs this is a hit piece. There's so many signs. There's so many other underlying elements going on here, right? With the pizza connotations, the connotations surrounding the word pizza, and an esoteric meaning in there.
Didn't they make a South Park episode all about that gerbil traveling through Richard Gere's asshole?
Did they really? Come on, did they really?
They made a whole video game about it too.
Oh, they did. I can't. We can't watch that tonight. You gotta save up. I'll derail this. That whole story cracks me up. I'll derail this entire tale to that. But so no, I just think there's a good argument to be made. There's a lot going on here with Bill Maher and his activities and whatever he's involved with. I'm not saying that he diddles kids, but I mean he seems to imply that himself with a production title named Kid Love Productions following this film. So the next guy Bill meets is Michael Milken, and again, this is that junk bond trader that. So Trump pardons this guy a couple years ago, right? His first administration. Right. So again, he plays tennis with this guy. He pardons this guy later. Again, I don't know what the relations were in 1991. It's not clear, but the film implies they had some financial relations. I presume they probably did. Why this guy goes to jail and his partner Leon Black doesn't, and then does all this Epstein stuff. Again, I think there's a lot more to these narratives. I'm not trying to say I understand what they are, but what are your guys' thoughts as far as these things? Like, should in your mind, should a 1991 comedy have it's obviously they call it a comedy, comedy. It's but should it be relevant today on these same kind of topics? You know what I mean? Like in my mind, if there's not something more embedded with the occult or esoteric understanding of these things in the film, with this diddling conversations in Epstein, then why would there be so much appearance of it with the characters in the film still revolving around those situations 30, 40 years later?
Right. Well, I think there could be like this connection between Donald Trump and Michael Milken could be a lot of the hatred, maybe. Like, what if they did have a closer relationship? Maybe they were friends.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think I actually think there probably was some sort of closer relationship there.
Right. Well, how would you feel knowing that this guy's partner got off scot-free and then your buddy is the one that ended up going to jail? Like, that would piss you off at least, especially if you know about Epstein and all the rest of that shit that he's been into. So, there could be a real motivating factor here when it comes to Donald Trump and government.
Sure. And I think the closer connection is likely this. So that firm, this is the firm that Milliken shut down, Drexel, Burnham, Lambert, in his criminal activities, him and Leon Black. But the whole firm was founded and seems to be populated by folks who graduated the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, which is Trump's alma mater.
That's Trump.
Yeah. Milliken was obviously younger and went there later, but I'm just saying, like, this is a firm populated by graduates from the Wharton School of Business. So they're obviously operating within at least that looser network frame, right?
Right. But that makes sense if they're all sort of in it together and these are their sort of things. And, if they're being targeted by the administration, all these different Wharton graduates, that would piss me off. Shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I think there's something to be said for the this gerbil stuff just never ends. I like it. Gerbils and a half shell gerbil power. I like that one. That's a good one. Now, I think there's something to be said that some folks go to prison and some folks continue to make hundreds of millions of dollars, right? You know what I mean? And then you have another guy like Milliken who did go to prison, seemingly paid some restitution, somehow still worth $6 billion today. And again, just a few years ago, got Trump to pardon him. You know what I mean? So again, I just think that reestablishes there is still an ongoing relationship with those two, right? Even until recent years.
Milken Institute.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That.
And whatever is going on. I think what I'm saying is I have no idea what's going on there. I just think it's hilarious that this is like these elements in the 1991 comedy are still relevant here today, parapolitically speaking. And again, I mean, what's a hotter topic right now than the Epstein client list? I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on the client list, but I'm just saying, like, it is like probably the number one topic amongst folks, on the interwebs today right now. From mainstream media reports even about it to just people talking about it.
Yeah, and that hasn't stopped. That hasn't gone away. I mean, we're talking, what, has it been 6 years now? Since how many
almost
years?
5.5, August of 2019.
That's crazy. I mean, look, we all know that Anna Paulina Luna, the one that's in charge of this commission, has now taken the official title of world's biggest cock tease, because we were supposed to get these documents as soon as Trump came in, and now we have to wait until after all of these hearings. What's up with that? Aren't you just supposed to let those documents go? Aren't we supposed to see all this stuff now? It's just crazy to me that people are falling for it again.
It's funny you say that, because the cock tease, you realize she's a former stripper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Trump got bailed out twice in the 90s by Wilbur Ross, Rothschild banker. Yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah, he did. That money was Wilbur Ross got that financing from Deutsche Bank, which is where Trump still banks today because the Federal Reserve refuses to do business with him. And I sincerely think Trump hates the Federal Reserve. And when he makes comments that he wants to shut him down, I don't think that he's unserious about it. I think he's very serious about it. But as far as the client list, I mean, it's a circus. What that circus is about, I'm not sure. But as far as client lists go, we already have black books. We already know that there's numerous pilot aircraft logs that have never been released, right? We've only one pilot's log has been released, so there's numerous other pilots, so there's a lot of these things that could be considered lists. So it's a very ambiguous term. I just think it's interesting that there's so many people not again in the Trump orbit. There is so many people in the Trump orbit related to the Epstein saga, but also all this stuff's in a 1991 comedy film with Bill Maher being taking some level of contention, right? Some point of contention against these subjects. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is some sort of altruistic savior person. What I am saying is Bill Maher don't seem to like him.
Right.
And whatever that subject is, it seems to revolve around pizza and possibly Epstein related activities.
1523 could have been the going rate for a child sex slave back then, and we're just looking at the inflation effects on the child sex slave. I mean, that's what's going on.
Yeah, buying power is really hitting the dumps, isn't it? Well, I was thinking actually 1523 could be an address or something. You know what I mean? It had, like 1523 could have been a meaning internally to whatever this beef is going around this movie and these characters. Like they would know what 1523 meant. Like those sons of bitches, 1523. Like Seinfeld and Newman. He's like Newman. They're like, oh, because they keep dropping it so many times that it's obviously got some meaning to some people, right?
Right.
I don't think it's just a joke.
No, I did wonder about it. I did.
If there was some subtext there that I could grab onto, but it's all just like surface level socialism, I mean, like, did you really get
it? It really is.
Yeah. Did you really get any of the dirt or any of the detail from any of his interactions with all these political characters, or was it just the most basic? I mean, on his show he goes pretty basic. He's not looking into anything at all. Like all of his humor on Bill Maher's show just seems like surface level socialism. There's really no like substance to it.
Oh, he's a commie. He's definitely a commie. Yeah, and there's obviously political beefs in here, but I think there's also beefs that transcend politics and other subjects, including the personal beef you had with Bob Woodward. I don't think the Bob Woodward beef is probably. I mean, who knows? It could be surrounding some sort of diddling stuff. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, from the words he was saying in the film, in that scene, like whatever that beef is with Woodward in this film, whether it's Maher or the writer, it seemed personal. Like that was like he said, it was his hero, and like he thought he sold out and all this other stuff, right? Like that seemed to cut him deep. Bill wept that night.
One lone janitor, one ordinary Joe, cleaning up a mess that has left the nation's financial markets in turmoil. Or was it an ordinary Joe?
Mike Milken?
So I think it's interesting. He makes him a janitor, right? He's cleaning up, the financial markets, makes that reference, right? Like they go on to describe a little more of the junk bond stuff. But again, Mike Milken was not a very political character. I don't think he still is I don't know that he's ever been a political character, right? So now we're transcending politics and personal beef. So what is Maher's beef with Mike Milken? Is it simply the scandals surrounding the junk bonds? If that's it, the bigger scandals surrounded folks like the Bush family and the savings and loan crisis with Neil Bush and the Franklin scandal, these type of things, right? It seems like if anything was going to be fussed about by Maher, it'd be something like that.
If he actually looked into anything more than the headlines. That's the problem. It's like Michael Milken got the headlines, and that's all that people looked at,
You're probably right. He's probably the butt of a lot of late night jokes at the time, right?
Right.
Had either one of you familiar with when you all saw this and watched and saw Michael Milken? You're like, did you all know who he was?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all. No. That's what I'm saying. Like, so some of these things are very like the Geraldine Ferraro. I think most folks who would watch that today would be like, who? You know what I mean? But some of these things seemingly are obscure. But again, I don't think it's by any sheer happenstance that Michael Milken's included in here for could be a number of reasons. But yeah, I mean, he certainly got some headlines and could have been on Maher's. An anti-capitalist like Maher certainly would have taken umbrage with old Michael Milken there.
Yeah, it seems like I don't know. Do you want to play some of his criticism
of Milken?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Elmo. Just cleaning up around here. Geez, what a mess, huh?
You're a billionaire. What are you doing?
Damn SEC. They got me here day and night. I have to wash their cars, too.
Boy, those racketeering laws have some teeth.
Yeah, but my lawyer got me out of having to mow their lawns, so I can't complain. What are you doing here?
Nice.
Oh, I was hoping you could answer some questions for me.
Yeah, I could go for a donut.
I don't want to interrupt your routine, you know.
I mean, he makes him sound like the biggest doofus, right? Oh, I could go for a donut.
Right.
Interrupt.
I don't remember Michael Milken's personality. I just remember hearing about him, but
yeah, I don't know that he's that big of a dunce. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy clearly was criminal, perhaps, obviously, but yeah, clearly, seemingly a Wharton grad with some financial skill sets. You know, be it mathematics or whatever, negotiations, who knows? But certainly some businessman skill sets. It seemed.
I appreciate the donuts and everything, but
they're eating
people
donuts.
like you that taking this economy right down the crapper. You feel pretty bad about that, don't you?
No, I've got plenty stocked away.
Yeah. Well, anyway, get back to the case.
Oh, well, listen, I don't care what that dame told you. The mayor's Metro Rail account is just fine. The junk bonds were bought out before the crash.
Bought by whom?
I don't think I should say.
Come on, Mike, you can tell me.
It's not really a who question. It's a what.
What?
Oh, let me give you a hint. Oh, look at the Godzilla, run for your life, save us.
what?
That is an interesting scene because it's not the Japanese that bought out all these municipal and state bonds in America today. It's the Chinese.
Right. And that was a big change in the 1980s to the 1990s. They called the 1990s the lost decade in Japan because they had a huge financial crash.
Right.
So their yen went through the roof. They use yen, right? But their yen, deflated so much, and they just took it on the chin. And basically, their economy hasn't really been the same since. But it used to be in the 80s that the Japanese manufacturing processes were superior to all the union, bailed out car manufacturers in the United States. So every car was Japanese, all the electronics were Japanese, everything came from Japan.
Sure. The another topic still relevant today with tariffs. So not to go down to a socioeconomic or political conversation on that matter here, but you get then Maher gets has an interaction with the former Prime Minister of Japan over these matters.
As you do.
Which is somewhat obscure. Then the dame is always making her recurring role here in the recurring appearance throughout the film. Then you get to Dan Quayle. And I don't know. I mean, at the time, Dan Quayle's a VP. He's famously known for all sorts of dumb shit, being a moron, which I think he's kind of went off into obscurity himself ever since this era. You really never hear or see much of Dan Quayle these days. The one thing I don't even know that much about the guy. And one thing I do know is he's from the state of Indiana. And after seeing things that went down with the Delphi murder case, the entire state of Indiana's upper echelon of politics is way worse off than anyone could imagine, including folks from sure like Dan Quayle. He's a product of that. So was what was Trump's first VP, Pence? He's a product of that system.
Absolutely. I heard something interesting about the Delphi case. This guy who said he was reading headlines related to this strange mental process of hearing voices and stuff, said that they said that Richard Allen was hearing voices. I hadn't read that anywhere.
I've never heard that once now.
Right. I think they're trying to pin a mental illness on him so that it makes it seem more plausible that he killed those people, but I don't think he did.
Yeah, that dude's got he's in a lot of shit. I mean, he's that whole situation is pretty messed up. But yeah, just I'm fascinated of the level of tomfoolery that's gone on there because it's at a certain. Am I froze? Did I freeze?
For a second.
Yeah, you did for a bit.
Am I back?
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, but I think I can pull some correlations between the Indiana situation I'm trying to say in this Pizza Man film. Clearly, there's a lot of weird kid stuff being involved going on around the upper echelon of politics in the state of Indiana, and it could just be complicity in the matter of not covering it up, right? Because whatever went down with them two girls and their murder, I mean, it involved some weird shit, some perhaps some Freemason members with some of those characters, some weird ritualistic Odinism stuff, but that stuff goes up into the upper echelons of the state politics, and if they're not memberships, then they're at least covering up for some reason. What that reason would be if they're not members, I'm not sure. But the level, I was actually really shocked with some of the level of politics that were involved in all that. I mean, not much more different than the Idaho 4 situation in the politics, but different politics. But that the politics in Indiana, they're pretty dark, it seems.
Well, I don't know if you listened to the Nephilim Death Squad, but they're convinced that the ultimate evil or the throne of Satan is under Indiana.
Oh, I was not familiar with that theory, but I'll entertain it for sure. Yeah, so in a state like Indiana, clearly there's a lot known that's not publicly known, right, amongst these political types, and relative to this Delphi case particularly, in the vast network of investigations they were spot on with their investigations in the early on part of the stuff, and it seemed like the murder of the Terre Haute detective who was working for the FBI task force is what shut it all down. That dude was murdered by a politician. Go figure, a Democratic politician from the state of Indiana. There, mayoral candidate for Terre Haute mayor. Nonetheless, in that same note, we see all this political stuff in this Pizza Man film, right? But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, at some point in time, these weird pizza-related activities permeate through politics at seemingly state and federal level, and I would argue local level as well, because it's all funded by the same parties. But nonetheless, so I'm not saying I don't know the mayor of Los Angeles' history. There at the beginning of the film, but like Ronald Reagan's got some dark shit around him. I don't know about Ferraro or Quayle. Quayle, like Pence, I imagine those dudes have some skeletons in their closet. You look at Mike Pence, Mr. Oh, I don't have meetings with women if my wife's not present. All right. You've killed people, bud. And you got some stuff in your closet, fella. You know what I mean? That's the first reaction I have when I hear that statement. I'm just saying, I don't know, these in 91, no one was thinking that these subjects were closely related to politics and whatnot, but I think Bill Maher and gang behind this film knew that.
I think there is that dark undertone that it's sort of, they're trying to presume that everybody knows how seedy this game is, but it's like, it doesn't really translate too well.
Sure. And then I got before we get into the last part here with Donald Trump, I'll play the clip here with the introduction of Donald Trump. And you mentioned this, I believe, before. I think you both did before we started the show. How the introduction of Donald Trump in the film, Bill Maher, the Pizza Man, has no idea who he is. And I just think that's just a way to troll the dude and talk shit. Like, oh, who are you again? Nah, that doesn't sound familiar. Because he gives him like his whole resume, right? And Bill's like, no, never heard of you. What were your all, before we play the clip? What did you guys think on that scene? Was that a similar take that y'all had?
Well, I thought it was weird that the guy didn't realize, even though they worked together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the guy at one point admits to him that we work together. Like, how do you not realize? Like, you see the dude, don't you be like, oh, that's the guy that supposedly disappeared from my pizza shop one day. I just didn't understand that. Like.
Because he was the original pizza guy that disappeared, right? Supposedly, when how they
yeah. He was the first guy to disappear with the sausage and anchovies pizza.
Yeah, so they tie that back in. I thought that was really weird too, because they don't really explain that. Because he's like, Donald who? What who? So what were your thoughts there, Headless?
I couldn't understand what they were going for, but I think at some level they were trying to troll him about fame. The whole movie seems to be obsessed with fame. It's like how popular people are in other people's eyes and stuff. So, yeah, you kind of got maybe the indication that they were trying to drop a joke. Okay, well, he doesn't know who Donald Trump is. How could you not know?
Right.
But who knows? Yeah,
I mean, again, Donald Trump was pretty big in 1991. I mean, yeah. He hadn't appeared in Home Alone 2 yet, but I think he was just about to. But he was a major figure in business. Not politics, but he owned not an NFL team. There was that other football league in the 80s that he owned a football team with. He's just he was a major figure in society, I guess, right? Yeah, I think he owned Miss America at the time, right? So I mean, he did a lot of different things.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous, that was like ubiquitous. And you also this is taken from the perspective where everybody has 5 channels, and you can assume that they know all the same stuff.
Sure. This is before the early onslaught of even USA television.
Right.
Yeah, so for the edification of the folks of the interwebs, not that this storyline makes any sense, Bill Maher just beat up the Quails, and Donald Trump pops in, and he's like, "Hey, I'm really the one behind this." Again, not really relevant, but that is what's going on here.
Honey, I don't get it. I was just worried sick when you didn't show up after that last delivery. Where you been all these years?
Where do you think I've been? I'm Donald Trump.
I know. You're a pizza man, and a pretty good one.
That was back in the early 70s. I'm a billionaire now. Donald Trump.
So I don't know. I just want to pause that here. When I first saw that, now when he calls him a pizza man, it's like, why are they both calling each other pizza man? You know what I mean?
And he's a former pizza man.
Yeah, right,
he hasn't done pizza since the 1970s.
Right. Back when he was hanging out at Studio 54 with Ray Cohn. Or as I like to joke around, maybe Ray Cohn, Donald Trump, and David Berkowitz were moonwalking with Michael Jackson at Studio 54. Just a fantasy that I like to portray in my head from time to time. They were all definitely there at the same time, apparently, but whether or not they were moonwalking is a different tale altogether.
But were there gerbils?
Well, if Gear was there, there was gerbils present.
Oh man.
The Trump Palace. The Trump Plaza. The Trump Shuttle. The Trump Game. The Trump Book. Trump.
Trump, huh? Trump. No, doesn't ring a bell. Why'd you leave?
Which, we don't have to play any more of that. Trump ends up telling him he hired everybody to torment Bill Maher over this $15.23 in some sort of weird revenge thing, which again is the most, lackluster ending to this film. Spoiler alert. But the idea, the idea that I can watch Bill Maher say he has never heard of Trump when Bill Maher has spent tens of thousands of hours over the last 8 years just saying the word Trump, you know what I mean, in various derogatory fashions. It's just funny to watch him say, "Oh, I've never heard Trump. No, I've never heard of him."
Well, I think I'm going to go to the HBO studios and actually get up in the middle of one of the tapings and say, "Pizza Man sucked."
Right?
Yeah.
Don't tase me, bro.
Don't taste me.
He may not even remember he made this film. He's probably trying to hide it, trying to hide that. I don't know. I think he's I think he's kind of a darker dude. You may, to me, it's not a joke to name your production company Kid Love Productions, especially when you're making these weird coded films about pizza, at the same time. Like,
That is
I don't know. It's off-putting to me.
It's bizarre.
And again, I'll let you guys give some of your final reviews here. But for me, it's the oddity that this stuff from 1991 is still relevant today in 2025 in a parapolitical, context here, and the same characters and the same kind of, not necessarily the same script necessarily, but I'm saying like the same script of it's revolving around this diddling activities, right? Or in around those activities.
Well, I think you nailed it with the Wharton School, because there seems to be a lot of connections between the early 90s, the Wharton School, and what's going on today with the, Trump administration. So that could be, one of these groups to watch in terms of connections to whatever Trump's got up his sleeves,
Well, not only Trump, that's a good point. Not only Trump, because while Trump was in office and Biden was out of office there from 2016 to 2020, the CCP funded an economics school over there at UPenn and named it the Biden School of Economics here at the Wharton School of Business. So, and Anthony, his buddy, garage band enthusiast and part-time Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, was the head of that business once it opened. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on there at Wharton, for both sides, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a shot across the bow, what better way than to buy a whole building at the school that all these people who are opposing you come from?
That's the way I looked at it. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Some odd stuff. But so what were y'all's thoughts here on the movie? Like, did y'all have a favorite scene? Or like, was there a favorite aspect of this film? I mean, or was it just collectively shitty?
Yeah, Nick, what was your favorite part
What
of
was your favorite scene?
Man, I have to think about that shit. I mean, there was a few parts that I was like, all right, that was kind of funny.
Really? Okay. At least you laughed.
Well, no, I mean, it's like, I think funny, like kind of like it wasn't so stupid, like it was like silly dumb that you can
I've watched it with the understanding it's satirical, and I still have yet to laugh, but I see what you're saying.
I think, I mean, the Trump part I thought was actually probably the best, honestly.
That at least has some satirical comedy to it today, right? It didn't then, I don't think. But yeah, today it kind of does.
Yeah. For the simple fact of like, I did find it amusing how he slapped the shit out of that chick and how like it was like no. I mean, I think he did kind of make a point like, oh, I guess you got even, but like she really didn't do, those guys didn't really do anything to her except for tie her in the chair, and she just like, fucking blew him away. And he was like, oh,
dude. I mean, that's a good point. And he,
I just want to know how he is. It just seemed interesting. I think the character he played.
Well, there was implied R word in there, as well. She said something about how they took advantage of her or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as Bill Maher playing an action star, I would much rather watch Tom Cruise play a tall guy who knows how to fight rather than Bill Maher play a tall guy who knows how to fight.
The cartwheel was impressive.
The cartwheel was impressive. If done himself, that was an impressive move. Now, but I don't know about his own stunts with his fight scene. I just want to play this clip here. I forgot to play before and reiterate that he beat the brakes off of Dan Quayle's wife.
Oh, it's not playing right.
It's freezing up. That's the best part too.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna choose.
I think maybe the point was Dan Quayle was cowering in the corner. Maybe that was the point of that scene.
Maybe so.
Yo, that shit with him on top of the crate, acting like he's playing with the plane and bombing stuff. Like, like
like he's flying around and shit. Like he's retarded.
Yeah, they kept that going. They kept going with that for a while. I was like, they're still going with that. If you pay attention in the background,
he was doing it the whole time, right?
Yeah,
like the whole fight scene. Yeah.
Like that, I'll find funny. I was like, damn, he really kept that going for that long. But I mean, still,
there you go. I think
movie, but that tactic I find funny.
I think we found Nick's favorite scene in the Pizza Noir film.
No, actually, my favorite scene was the ending credits.
Okay, there you go. Which was weird. All the music was written like for this film too, and if you look at the lyrics, it was all like related to the scenes and stuff. It's very strange stuff. I don't have an explanation. But Headless, what was your favorite scene there?
Obviously, it was the
obviously.
Yeah, it was the scene with the lady at the beginning where he's calming her. Yes, the dame. Calming her down it should have happened a lot more, I think. I don't think he did it enough.
Nice, okay.
Yo, they left her with like bloody teeth and everything too.
Oh, dude, like the whole film she's bloody and then she dies. I'm like, what is the message with this situation here, right? Like, what are they doing here? She's not really a love. I mean, she's like a love interest without being a love interest kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
strange.
Yeah, it's very odd interactions they have.
Although they even go out,
life at that one point.
He doesn't even want to pay for her.
Right. Yeah, you mixed some solid points with the ending credit scene being the best scene because there's really not an aspect. When I recommended this to y'all, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good because it's like it's a bit obviously because it's not a good movie. It's definitely not a good film whatsoever. There's a lot. I mean, I'm a big fan of cinema, of Hollywood and whatnot. I have been since I was a child. I mean, most of the films not anymore. There's nothing really good produced, but during that was kind of the era which I would watch just about everything that I could get on VHS, and Yeah, I never heard of that or seen that even at the time. Like, you know, because I watched everything. I'm like, man, I seen some bad movies of that era, and this movie was. I mean, it might be the worst. It might. If the Razzies existed at the time, I don't think. I think this was pre-Razzie. If the Razzies existed, it should have won, which is the worst film of the year or whatever, the opposite of the Emmy.
It's got a lot of potential as being a source of memes. You know,
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
like you can turn a lot of those scenes.
that's like an untapped source for memes.
If Bill Maher wasn't so ugly, you could see that turning into a big meme factory. But
It might be interesting to start making some memes like when you got to catch the frame where he's like smacking the chick.
there you go.
Start making memes with that.
He'll
and
love
see
that. He'll love that if
reacts.
you send him on Twixter or something. I'm sure.
Yeah. If that catches on, see how he reacts to that.
Right.
I actually tried doing that. I was going through old 80s movies and catching, because there's a bunch of them that are just super weird. Like they're kind of like exploitation / frat movies, like the party movies, right? They had some crazy like meme potential in some of that stuff. I just haven't seen it,
Right. Yeah, and Bill Maher's really not an actor. You know what I mean? Him acting in that film is kind of an outlying role for him. I mean, I think the only other movie he did was written by the same guy. It was like another obscure movie, right? Like, yeah, he also starred in. It's definitely written by the same guy. Something about Amazon women or something.
Oh boy.
I think a couple other, the only two stars he have is in the Avocado Jungle of Death, and then Pizza Man, written by the same guy.
Wow.
So very, very obscure films.
Was that a robot movie?
I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. Starring Shannon Tweed. She's a Canadian. Oh, Playboy model. Bill Maher. That's an odd. Okay. Yeah, same guy, J.F. Lawton. There you go. Written and directed by J.F. Lawton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
seems like an odd one.
He's got me hooked. I got to see this movie.
I've heard the name Adrienne Barbeau, that I'm not sure what I've heard her. Oh, Grease. Okay. Like Grease in there.
That's weird.
Not the actor Dean Stockwell, but someone playing the name Dean Stockwell. I wonder what that's about. Yeah. I mean, it's odd. He's just not. He's not an actor. I mean, his other roles here besides those two films. To get an appearance in something called DC Cab, Rat Boy was a role party guest. Something called House 2: The Second Story, which is Fred Decker. Yeah, he's a diddler. That makes sense. It's the guy from Monster Squad in the Predator film, Ryder. He was actually blacklisted from Hollywood for a long time, but yeah, he's a confirmed convicted diddler. Not shocked that Maher's starring in his or acting in his film. What is this? Robert Butler and Bruce Abbott and Bill Maher, called Out of Time. Well, this looks weird.
What?
It's a failed television pilot made into a TV movie. Okay. Some sort of buddy cop, sci-fi space flick, looks like. Yeah, I can't imagine why that failed. I mean, again, Bill Maher's acting chops. I'm not saying I'm an actor, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna act, I mean, I don't know what that. He's not. I wouldn't call anything he did in that film acting. I mean, that, like, what we saw in that, even the Pizza Man, is like I think in large part is Bill Maher's personality. Is that dry kind of, that very kind of dry sense. That's the kind of impression I get from the guy. Like, I don't think there's any depth of acting in the guy. And again, if he did his fight scenes, good for him. That's some stunt work, I guess, right?
It's funny though. His entire early career seems to be nothing but a string of failures.
Right.
Like how does a guy like that rise to prominence when, every one of these movies was a stinker.
Sure. Oh, there's another Hollywood guy that got banished for a little while but came back. Yeah, sometimes I think they just have to go get suspended for a while. Fred Decker, Victor Salva. You know what I mean? That's Francis Ford Coppola's underling, Victor Salva. Some dark shit around that tale. That's for damn sure. Francis Ford Coppola made the victim come back over to to finish the movie after he got raped by the director on the film. Crazy.
What?
But anyhow, yeah. So a lot of I think that's what I'm saying. Whenever I see, I know folks have some sort of hopefully not too many people in this day and age, but idealistic perspective of Hollywood. I just see a bunch of kid diddlers. You know what I mean?
That's
so
crazy.
when I see the Pizza Man and the Kid Love Productions, I'm like, well, this makes a lot of sense. And I see Bill Maher, one of the few other acting roles, he's in a Fred Decker film. I'm like, okay. I see what's going on here.
That's too many points.
Right. Oh, speaking of Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider stuff, they lost one of their child actresses today. That Michelle Trachtenberg was found dead today. She got her monster career there on Dan Schneider's Nickelodeon.
Really? I thought it was Buffy.
No, this is before Buffy. Don't ask you what show she was on. I just know she was one of their early, I'll tell you right now. She's one of their early starlets there on the in the mid 90s maybe on Nickelodeon, early 90s maybe. Stand by 1 second, I'll tell you. Pete and Pete, 1994 to 1996.
Oh shit.
And then she continued to star in multiple Nickelodeon productions following that. This is, in the 90s. Yeah, so she that's a Pete and Pete. That's during the Schneider era of Nickelodeon. He wasn't the the guy that created that show, right? But this is the era in which Schneider takes over control of Nickelodeon. This is when they're changing the logo to a foot. You know what I mean?
Right.
He would subsequently be the executive producer on basically every popular show after that show.
Well, Pete and Pete had a lot of feet references. I think that was one of the big smush flicks that he did.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah. I mean, he was always doing smush flicks in each one of his shows.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of gross, isn't it?
Yeah. I
saw some comments. I don't want to get too far off on that tangent, but I saw some comments about P. Diddy earlier. Isn't it weird that P. Diddy did some guest appearances on some Dan Schneider Nickelodeon shows? Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how much of this pizza stuff is going on in Hollywood, and
Well, I know Anna Paulina Luna's got her work cut out for her and trying to get rid of those references that are inconvenient.
I thought you were going to say she's gonna solve everything for us.
Oh no.
Yeah. Does she? I wonder if when she goes in and walks up to these podiums and whatnot to give her speeches, does she have like a song like she used to have at the strip club? Like an entrance song.
She was raised Jewish.
Was she really?
Yeah. So it's all of it. I mean, like they can't let anything about Israel get out. They can't let anything about any of the associates that they might have get out. So there's a real good reason why they put her in charge of letting these things out, because she ain't going to do it. The first hearing is going to be on March 29th. Just putting it off a full month.
I'm just going to hold my breath until that date then, because I know they're going to solve it.
Right.
Well, gents, I appreciate your time. You got any closing comments or anything you want to plug here before we wrap up the show?
Just check me out tomorrow night. We got reading emails going on. So if you want to send your stories to me and we'll read them on air, they could be anonymous. Just send it over to Headless Giant Podcast at gmail.com and we will read them. So
that's good. I'll send you one. I was thinking about a time when my associates and I had actually kidnapped the Statue of Liberty in which to fight the evil ghost creature that had come back from the dead.
Don't you mean the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Damn it. No, that's my bad. It's Ghostbusters too. My apologies.
Oh, that's right.
Nick, do you have any closing thoughts? Any statements for anything you're working on? Any plugs?
No, just I guess to check out the live this Saturday.
And Friday.
Yes, and Friday. That's right. That's right. That is right. My bad.
All right.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
All right. All right. On that note.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, but check your six. Look in that garbage can, 'cause you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.